In my old neighborhood, about half a block from home, I could always count on finding John with his rumpled jeans and army jacket, motioning to passing cars at the street corner. John had moments of clarity, but for the most part, seemed incoherent whenever I approached. What wasn't incoherent was the hope painted plainly upon his face that I would find some cash to share with him. The first dozen times or so that we crossed paths, we spoke for about 10 or 20 minutes before I dutifully opened my wallet and proffered a meager offering, $5 here, $10 there. But as time wore on, I found myself becoming less and less generous of spirit, less and less moved by the pain in John's eyes, until I began to avoid him altogether. After all, it didn't appear that my visits were improving John's circumstances, and I slowly began to wonder where exactly my contributions were going. Unconsciously, but cynically, I'd begun to ask myself the quintessential human question, one posed to us in the earliest chapters of our Bible. Am I this man's keeper? In our people's first of many tales of sibling rivalry, Cain, a farmer, brings an offering to God from the fruits of the soil. God, however, rejects Cain's offering in favor of a lamb from the flocks of Abel, Cain's younger brother. Disappointed and angry, Cain kills his brother in the fields. God then asks Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain replies, "I don't know. Hashomer achi anochi? Am I my brother's keeper?" Though Cain's retort smacks of simple sarcasm, this is the very first time in the Bible that a human poses a question to God, and the question hardly seems incidental. In fact, Cain's response suggests that absent fitting guidance, humans are destined to turn their backs upon one another, thwarting God's hopes for the nascent human race and threatening the very future of humanity itself. Sound a bit melodramatic? Think again. In his book, Sapiens, historian Yuval Noah Harari explains that despite what we'd like to think, we humans are an extremely limited species, except for one immensely powerful attribute, our capacity for abstract thinking, which enables us to fashion bonds of shared responsibility with people we've never even met. Notions like Judaism or America or liberty or faith are simply beyond the capabilities of other species. These abstract concepts lead to massive cooperative networks, such as nations or religions, in which thousands and millions of complete strangers work together toward common goals. While other species collaborate with their immediate neighbors in flocks, herds, packs, and prides, humans transcend the boundaries of proximity to create networks of concern that span both space and time. Drop any one of us in the savannah without tools, food, or water, and our chances of survival would be slim. We are neither fierce like the lion, nor cunning like the coyote, nor swift like the gazelle, nor industrious like the ant. But our sense of interconnectedness provides us with a competitive advantage no other species can match, one that has enabled us to become this planet's dominant creature. Only by striving together over generations did humans discover how to defeat the mastodon, how to domesticate wheat, how to wield fire, how to cherish beauty, and more importantly, how to preserve these innovations for our descendants to replicate and improve. Our ability to cooperate with one another, to care for one another, is the gift of our species and the key to our thriving and survival. And so when Cain asks God, "Am I my brother's keeper?" he's doing something far worse than simply disrespecting God. He's threatening the entire human enterprise. Consequently, God responds, first by punishing Cain for his crime, and next by advancing and affirming a vision for humanity based upon mutual responsibility and love. One that commands us to take personal concern for the welfare of those around us, to love our neighbors as ourselves, to embrace the stranger, to fill the hearts of the poor, the widow, and the orphan with joy, to, as the prophet Isaiah teaches, share our bread with the hungry and take the wretched poor into our homes, to clothe the naked, and to never ignore another in need. Through this vision, Jewish tradition definitively answers Cain's challenge. Yes, we are our brothers and sisters' keeper. If only it were that simple. The many laws contained within the 5 books of Moses, as well as the admonishments of the prophets themselves, illustrate just how difficult it was for our ancestors to live in accordance with this vision. 2,000 years of discovery and achievement haven't made it any easier. But why? What makes it so easy for us to casually set aside our sacred obligations to one another? What made it so effortless for me to disregard John, a fellow human, one that I know I'm commanded to care for? The answer may be, once again, abstraction. That same skill set that has enabled our species to survive and thrive. That same capability that gives us a sense of unity and mutual responsibility can also prove its undoing. The great 20th century thinker, Emmanuel Levinas, teaches that when we encounter other human beings, when we truly see their faces, the experience kindles in us a sense of obligation. When we are drawn to look deeply into their souls and cannot help but feel our connection to them, we know our responsibility toward them. If that sounds like a rabbinic platitude to you, consider this. Every time I avoided John, I consciously avoided looking him in the eye, as if my subconscious understood that to gaze upon his face would affirm my obligation toward him. Looking away was my acknowledgement of just how right Levinas is. Each time I sidestepped John, he became less and less human, more and more an abstraction. Each time I sidestepped John, he transformed further and further into the homeless man on the street corner, one of countless, faceless, nameless, homeless people throughout Los Angeles. And we've created so many ways to reduce our fellow human beings into abstractions. Gender, sexual orientation, nationality, race, religion, ethnicity. None of these words have any real meaning. They're all made up to separate us from one another and to deny the one true facet of human existence, the solitary truth that brought us from the savannas to the farms, suburbs, and cities, from hunting and gathering to exploring and creating, from cowering in fear of the darkness to sharing our light with the world. We are our brothers and sisters' keeper. Therefore, we must find a way to remind ourselves that everyone has a face that affirms our connection to them and our obligation toward them. From the homeless man or woman on the street corner like John, to the financier suffering from addiction, depression, or loneliness. From the asylum seeker separated from her children at our borders, to the Midwestern factory worker looking for a new job. From the families of Jorge Martinez and Mary Lou Armour and others lost to COVID-19 this past year, to the restaurant or bar owner wondering how she's going to pay her mortgage this month. From the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and other victims of structural racism, to the families of Juan Jose Diaz and Esmeralda Ramirez, and other officers who died in the line of duty. All of them have faces. All of them have names. All of them are our brothers and sisters, and therefore all of them are our responsibility. And we cannot look away, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's painful. Being Jewish means being uncomfortable. For no matter where we live, no matter our station in life, John's face still calls out to us. It still disturbs us, because that's what it means to be our brothers and sisters' keeper. So how do we do it? How do we fulfill that awesome responsibility when there is so much human suffering in the world? When we have suffering of our own? Thankfully, our tradition offers us guidance in the words of the 2nd century sage Rabbi Tarfon, who explains, "You're not obligated to complete the task, nor are you free to desist from it." Judaism doesn't expect us to solve everyone's problems on our own. But if we each recognize that the suffering of others is our suffering, if we each lend our considerable gifts, our intellect, our passion, our strength, our wealth, and yes, sometimes our votes to our brothers and sisters in need, then we can change the world. As the prophet Isaiah teaches, if you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness, and your darkest despair shall be like the midday sun. I don't live near John anymore. I don't even know if he still stands on that street corner, motioning to the passing cars. And the truth is, I have no idea what he needs or how to help him. But I see his face, and in seeing, I know he is my brother. So I have to try.